Hello, this is Worldwide Geography, a channel all about geography.
During the latter part of the 18th century, Thomas Malthus, a distinguished economist, embarked on a journey to Norway, a nation then under Danish control. Despite the breathtaking landscapes, Norway grappled with challenging weather conditions, making life arduous for its modest population. Eking out a living from small farms and fishing in the sea was the way of life, with unforgiving winters casting near darkness for half of the year. The mountainous terrain limited agricultural land, making travel difficult. Remote towns with a poorly educated populace were common, and the days of Viking conquest had long faded, leaving Norway devoid of wealth or resources. In the subsequent decades, wars, blockades, and embargoes exacerbated Norway's situation, plunging it into economic ruin and famine. Norway, once unimportant and undeveloped, stands today as the second wealthiest country on Earth, excluding micronations. It's not just about economic wealth. Norway is also among the happiest, the seventh healthiest, and the most democratic nation globally. Almost every metric measuring the well-being of a nation reflects Norway's prosperity, with every citizen technically being a quarter millionaire. Yet, the question lingers. How did Norway attain such immense wealth while other nations struggled and failed? Many countries attempted to replicate Norway's success, only to find themselves worse off than before. This raises the question of whether Norway's economic success is too good to be true. Despite being a small oil exporting nation, Norway's economy hasn't succumbed to the pitfalls of the oil curse that plagues many other nations. Norway has managed to navigate through challenges, and its citizens enjoy high standards of living and robust social welfare benefits. The intriguing aspect is understanding what makes Norway fundamentally different from nations like Libya, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and others with vast oil resources. About a century after Malthus's visit, Norway gained independence from Sweden, but remained an uneducated and impoverished country, relying on the export of raw resources such as timber, fish, and minerals. However, Norway possessed certain advantages, including a robust parliamentary system, universal suffrage, and workers' rights, which allowed for social reforms. Additionally, Norway built the world's fourth-largest merchant fleet, gaining valuable expertise in shipping, trade, and technology. Despite these strides, a significant portion of the country's hydropower was owned by foreign companies, leading the government to pass a bill limiting foreign ownership. The advent of new technologies like railways, roads, and communication methods helped Norway overcome its disadvantages in comparison to European neighbors, sparking rapid economic growth and industrialization. Yet, Norway's commitment to welfare, education, and public industry set it apart from its peers and laid the foundation for future success. In the early 20th century, Norway faced the impact of global economic and geopolitical forces, enduring an invasion and occupation by Germany during World War II. Post-war, Norway joined international organizations and became a major recipient of aid under the United States Marshall Plan. The Labour Party established strict social democratic rule, emphasizing the public sector and centralized planning, while allowing private competition to thrive. From 1945 to 1975, Norway experienced robust and reliable GDP growth of 3.3% per year, driven by high taxes and government spending on education, shaping a capable workforce and a strong social safety net. Despite subdued inflation and nearly non-existent unemployment, Norway was still far from being an economic powerhouse. By the 1960s, it had caught up with other European nations in terms of wealth, but remained an average performer. However, the discovery of large natural gas resources in the North Sea sparked speculation about oil. Norway asserted its claims over these waters, initiating oil exploration by dividing and selling licenses. Norway also understood that maximizing the opportunity required not only extracting crude oil, but developing its petroleum processing industry. This necessitated massive investments in infrastructure, careful central planning, and the generation of its own engineering workforce. Rather than allowing the petroleum sector to overshadow the rest of the economy, Norway set a 90 million ton per year limit, ensuring that oil acted as an economic turbocharger rather than a replacement. However, Norway faced a challenge of deciding how to best spend the money to benefit its people as the oil industry expanded and prices soared. In the early 80s, oil prices plummeted, triggering a recession that caused economic growth to stagnate for almost a decade. Despite not squandering its oil revenue, Norway needed to take additional measures. Diversifying investments is a smart move when an economy heavily relies on a single commodity and its price. Recognizing this, Norway created its government pension fund in 1990. While other governments attempted similar initiatives, they often failed due to corruption. Norway's sovereign wealth fund was designed differently to prevent corruption. The Norwegian government can only spend the expected profit, preventing politicians from promising excessive spending today at the expense of tomorrow. The fund follows strict investing rules, avoiding investments in oil companies or those engaging in unethical practices. Furthermore, it cannot invest in Norwegian companies, diversifying risk and providing a safety net against domestic stock market fluctuations. The fund is now the world's largest, owning 1.5% of all public companies globally, with a peak value of $1.35 trillion. This amount is expected to continue growing, and if distributed, it would be enough to provide every Norwegian with $250,000. While other Scandinavian countries have had to reduce social spending, Norway uses the interest from its oil revenue to provide healthcare, education, and a safety net to families facing hard times. Although Norway still has some of the highest taxes globally, its citizens don't worry about paying medical bills they can afford. The government pension fund stands as an exemplary model of how a country can wisely use its natural resources and plan for the future, ensuring that its people benefit from the wealth generated by these resources. Norway's success in diversifying its economy is not merely a stroke of luck, but a result of careful planning and a long-term strategy. Despite the significant role played by oil in Norway's economy, the country has also developed other productive industries. It's essential to note that Norway's economic model may not be universally suitable for replication. The nation's high cost of living and reliance on the public sector have reduced competition and potential growth. Additionally, not every country is fortunate enough to have trillions of dollars in oil reserves off their coast. Other oil-rich nations must establish strong democratic institutions, productive industries, and a robust educational system to fully realize the potential benefits of their oil revenue. Without these foundational elements, politicians and strong men may be tempted to seek short-term gains at the expense of their country's future. While many nations have squandered their oil wealth, Norway has judiciously invested its money and now lives off the interest. This success story illustrates that with careful planning and management, even countries with significant natural resources can build a sustainable and prosperous future. Norway's journey is a testament to the idea that strategic foresight, coupled with responsible governance, can transform a nation's fortunes, ensuring that the benefits of natural resources are not just immediate but sustainable for generations to come.